Alright, hello everyone. It has been a while. I think the last video I made was when we still had 3.25. Now, during 3.26 and 3.27 I have definitely played. It's just that I have been following other people's builds and I have been expanding upon them a bit, of course, and doing my own thing with it, but not to the point where I felt like making a video would do any extra effort or extra justice to the build that they were already playing. Um, but then I did remind myself that I was playing another build I was trying to make myself, which was a Burning Arrow of Vigor Elementalist. This build didn't really go as planned. I was dying in tier 17s, it didn't quite get where I wanted it to be. And because of that, I converted it into a heist runner, which is the character you see here. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because when trying to figure out how to properly path for a heist runner as an elementalist, I didn't really see any resources for this online, so I figured I'll make this video for maybe anyone else that might want to pivot their elementalist into a heist runner, or just rather level an elementalist rather than a pathfinder, right? Because pathfinder is generally the most played class when it comes to heist runners. But I'm here to show you that an elementalist will work just as well. With all that being said, let's get into the passive tree. I will start with the ascendancies and also sort of the rationale behind why elementalist is still pretty good as a heist runner. So before we get into that, for heist, right, we need to do no damage. We just need to get tanky. That's the only thing you really care about, being able to sustain the heist damage that you take. To do that, we use Shaper of Flames, which gives us physical damage mitigation by having 40% of our physical damage dealt to us converted to fire. Then we have Shape of Winter, which lessens the enemy's damage based on the chill effect on them. Next up, we have the Leech of the Primordial, which allows us to get some extra golems and also buffs them. Specifically, we use this for our chaos resistance as well as getting our cast speed up to for some quality of life and getting some life regeneration. And then lastly, and I think very underrated, is Bastion of Elements. So what this does is that you get a Primal Aegis shield, which is able to take quite a bit of elemental damage. And the reason why this is so good is because if you are running through the heist, you often come across these lasers. And these are fire damage, so your shield will be able to absorb basically all of this damage, and you will not have to be afraid to die to this damage as frequently, basically. I would still be careful around mines. I run through them depending on the loot I have. But if I find a really good item, you betcha I'm gonna clear those mines first. So now let's talk about the rest of the passive tree. Of course, we are starting over here at the Elementalist node, and I'll go from the top to the bottom. So you'll see a repeating pattern. We're taking basically everything life, everything armor and evasion, and everything movement speed. That's roughly the gist. Oh, and spell suppression, of course, to make us tanky. So we start with some life over here. Then we have a primordial eminence socketed. What this does, it gives our golems more buff effect. So this helps our chaos golem give us more resistance, and we get more life regen from our stone golem. Then over here we make sure we get +1 maximum number of summoned golems and increased effect again to make those buffs even stronger. Moving down, we have yet another primordial to get even more effect on there. So these are the two primordials that we run. Then moving further down, we get to a unnatural instinct. As you can see, it gives quite the list, but the most important parts are the cast speed that it gives over here. It's like nice quality of life. The movement speed, which is 9%, is pretty solid. And then also we get some max life here as well. So these are the reason that we take the unnatural instinct here. Moving down, we move to some spell suppression nodes. We get increased evasion rating if we have been hit recently, as we are doing a generic evasion armor base setup, just both of them. And then a bit like the old days, you could say. Moving further down, we take Mage Bane to make sure that we are spell suppress capped. And then we continue down to our Transcended Spirit. And what this one does is it gives you movement speed per 10 dexterity allocated, but it gives reduced movement speed per 10 dexterity that's in the range that is not allocated. Now I have a good example here. I see there are 2 nodes over here that you can see that are unallocated right now. So these are basically giving us minus 2% movement speed. So let's say these were not dexterity nodes, we would have 12% movement speed instead. Now what you can do is, I'll show you real quick, is have one of these nodes, allocate them, then use a tattoo to turn them into something else, and then you don't have to allocate them anymore. And what you will see is that now we are, instead of 8% movement speed, getting 10% because this no longer counts as a dexterity node. So anywhere where you place Transcended Spirit and you notice, hey, there's dexterity nodes in my range that I cannot allocate, make sure to use any tattoo on them that makes sure that it's no longer a dexterity node to get a bit of extra movement speed out of it. I rebuilt this character from another character, so that's why I did not do that on this tree yet. And I guess it's also a good showcase for you. Moving along, we have some more movement speed over here. Sorry, max life, not movement speed. And ignore movement penalties, which gives movement speed inherently in that regard. Then we have some more life nodes and the Runegraft of Treachery. The reason why we picked this is we are running Determination, we are running Grace, we are running Haste, all these auras that makes us faster or makes us tankier. We don't really care that we are making the enemies around us tankier, right? So this is basically just a free 15% reservation efficiency for us, and there's no reason not to take it. Then we have the Armor and Evasion Mastery, where we regenerate 1% of our armor and evasion every 4 seconds. It's not mandatory, but I felt like it's kind of nice when you have taken a big chunk of damage, maybe due to the mines, to get up a bit faster to your max life potential again. You could swap this out for maybe an immune to bleeding if your helmet has higher armor and evasion. That's completely up to you. It doesn't really matter that much. Then we have the Pure Talent. So what this does is we get 7% increased movement speed because we are allocated or moving to the Ranger. Also, we put a Corrupted Blood immunity on this, so because it's a relatively cheap jewel to get Corrupted Blood on, so it's very nice. And the Ranger one is over here, and we'll get to there in a bit, while it's also sort of double dipping there. Moving along, more armor evasion and also increased effective onslaught. Onslaught gives also, besides attack speed, also movement speed, so we get more movement speed from our onslaught. Then of course more live nodes for tankiness and faster exploration of debuffs through the Runecraft of the Warp. Not mandatory, just helps a bit with general survivability. Then lastly we have some more movement speed and evasion, as well as increased movement speed if we have not taken damage recently. Also, you'll see that we have freedom of movement here. This is through the Anoint, so that we get increased movement speed while phasing and increased evasion rating while phasing, which we're getting through, I think, Withering Step and Phase Run. But we'll get to that when we get to the skills. Then moving on to more of the right side, here we see the the second Transcendent Spirit. Again, we're now taking these dexterity nodes, not only because they give 3% increased movement speed, but also because we now connect to the Ranger node, which gives us that 7% movement speed of the other jewel I just talked about. You could, if you are short on points, not take that jewel and also not take these points, make sure to tattoo them, and then it will still be a very solid setup, because this is of course I think a 97 character, so I can imagine you're doing this at level 90, you might not have the points for that. Then here some more life and evasion. This one is very mandatory for strength because we are severely strength starved. We are 155 out of the 155 we need, so I'm definitely gonna need this. You could also ignore this and instead take beef. The reason we took this is because we also get the increased effect, so just a bit of extra movement speed from our flasks. Of course, more life. Moving to the right, we have more evasion and resistances. Spell suppression to get us to spell suppression cap, more movement speed, more spell suppression, yes, more movement speed, more life, and lastly another Transcended Spirit. So yeah, the whole tree is just basically armor, evasion, movement speed, life, and spell suppression, and that's basically the whole tree, right? Because we don't have to do damage, we just need to survive and run back and forth to get our high slot. So that is the skill tree. As for the gear we are using, so we are using a Widow Hill. I wouldn't be too bothered with the exact percentage, just get a high percent, and then you can 6-link it yourself. It doesn't really matter that much. I think they're relatively cheap at every league anyway. And the reason we're using Widow Hill is because we are pairing it with the Rearguard. And what it does is we get the 24% chance to block attack damage and 15% chance to block spell damage, which gets massively buffed by the Widow Hill, putting us at attack block cap of 75 and 52% spell block. So that gives us a very big chunk of survivability out of just these two items. I've seen people run, I forgot the exact name of the weapons that give extra movement speed. I just like the ease of extra survivability from this. Makes the gearing process a bit easier, so to speak. Then we are running a Devoto's Devotion, reason being that it is one of the only helmets that I know of that has 20% movement speed, right? Movement speed is king in this build, obviously. And also the chocolate skill gems get a cost and reservation multiplier. I think is not always that expensive on this helmet, maybe a couple of div I paid for this, and I've never seen it really that expensive. Then the amulet, you could swap this for anything. I just picked the first amulet I could find with the best movement speed, which is this 10% increased movement speed amulet. But you can go wild on this. You could potentially use it, for example, to fix your resistances in case you don't have a mage blot with the additional elemental resistance effect, something like that. That's the thing, right? The whole build is now, you can change a lot, right? For example, same with these rings. I took these rings because they have 9% increased movement speed, but again, if you're lacking on resistances anywhere, maybe you need more chaos resistance, something like that, you could swap these out for an amethyst ring with some resistances on there. So yeah, that's the rings. Also cannot be poisoned, corrupt on there, just for extra tankiness, especially those labs where you have all these chaos damage coming in. It's nice to have. Then we have the Destiny Ladder Queen of the Forest. I think you'll see any heist runner run this. I mean, you can see right here as well. Basically, it's just the best body you can have if you want to be fast, because you get a lot of extra movement speed, up to 75% increased based on your evasion rating. When buying this, just make sure to look out for at least a half decent amount of resist if you need it. And especially just good evasion rating, right? Because you get quite a bit of flat evasion rating from this body. So having a good increased evasion rating combined with a base roll will be very helpful, I would say. Then as for the gloves, they're just resistance and life, armor evasion, and some spell suppression. And same for the boots, resistance, life, and of course, very importantly, movement speed as much as possible, in this case 35. Then I am running a Mage Blot. You can run a Tides of Time for your Magic Flask upkeep, do something like that. I think there's some other belts as well. You can check PoE Ninja, and if you then search for people that are wearing Destiny Leather, together with Devoto's Devotion, you'll get a lot of builds that are similar to this, so you can maybe check out also what belts they are running. But generally, I never really run heists without my Mage Blot, because I just like the speed that it gives. That's it for the gear. Then I guess we can quickly go over the flask. So a live flask with instant recovery when on low life. You could just do instant recovery regardless, as preference, doesn't really matter. Then a granite flask, which gives more movement speed. A silver flask for the onslaught, which avoids stuns, because we do not want to get stunned under any circumstance, of course, and our life pool is not that big, so it's good to have some stun immunity that way. Then the Jade Flask, which gives us some extra elemental resistances, and we kind of need this to cap out. As you can see, without it we're like 60 and 50, so if you're not running Mage Blood, do take care of that, because all your suffix on the boots and gloves are already filled, so you're probably going to have to swap out a ring or an amulet. And then lastly, the Quicksilver Flask with increased armor, because that's the part of the armor evasion that we're lacking the most. Then, as for the skills, what I'll quickly do is start a Grand Heist to show the skills a bit. Speaks a bit easier, because you can actually use them, and we can actually see everything in action. So right now we are using enhanced support with Spell Cascade, increased area of effect, and life tap. All those 4 support gems are used on our Frostwall and Void Sphere. This makes it so that they cost no mana, they cost multiple, and they're huge, right? So this is our Void Sphere. It's gonna pull everything in. These are gonna be our 3 Frost Walls. This is gonna block every enemy from messing around with our Rogue Exiles as they are opening the doors for us. Not Rogue Exiles, but our companions, so to speak. Then, as for the helm, we have the Enlightened support with Grace, Determination, and Haste. I guess very simple combo: armor, evasion, movement speed. You know, same as the tree, same as everything. But we're going for armor, evasion, movement speed. Then, as for the body, we're using quite a bit of support there with Enhanced support together with a more duration support. And we are linking that with our Molten Shell, our Withering Step, and our Phase Run, giving us the phasing and the movement speed buffs. And we're putting that on automation so it automatically goes off. The reason that also Life Tap is useful here is so that we have enough mana to actually cast these automatically, and that we're not accidentally spending all of our mana on, for example, Frost Walls, and then we no longer cast these. In the end, you could also put the Life Tap on here if really need be, if you don't have the cost reservation multiplier helmet, for example. Then, for the gloves, we have our Decoy Totem, which will attract enemies, and we have a Urgent Orders together with Enduring Cry, which is going to provide us some endurance charges if you need that. I would say the build doesn't generally need it, but you know, it's nice to have. And Life Tap again to make sure that we always have enough mana available. And then lastly, we have our minions with a meat shield support, right? Because they don't have to, we just want to have them be tanky. We have a Summon Chaos Golem, which is basically taking care of all our Chaos resistance, although right now I am 54%. Reason being is that I made this build initially when the Elementalist Ascendancy gave 100% increased buff effect. So yeah, therefore I used to have more. Again, like I said, you can solve it on one of the rings and lose like 9% movement speed. It's fine. Like, it's not the end of the world to lose 9%, as we are already on 495 right now, right? Or 536, depending on if our phase run is active or not. So that is the Chaos Golem. We have a Lightning Golem, which is gonna increase our cast speed and mana regen to make sure that we always have enough mana and that we can quickly throw down these walls without too much effort. And lastly, the Storm Golem, which is going to provide the majority of our life regen, putting us at, I think, roughly 360 life regen right there. Yeah, that's it for the skills and the armors that we're using. So I guess I can quickly show you how such a heist goes. Of course, you run in, you got to make sure that your companions are leveled, right? Because otherwise you're going to take a long while to open the doors. And the whole goal is just to run through the end. Yeah, check the loot, see if there's anything fun there. I will take whatever it is there is to see if I can activate some traps. See if there's anything interesting. Wouldn't wanna. Oh, nothing interesting. Sure. So then you just run it back. Sadly, no lasers or anything. So yeah, you can just use these void spheres to drag everything in. You can use these frost walls to keep like all the projectiles away from your character, your companion. And other than that, yeah, I think that's basically all there is to it. So yeah, if you made it this far, I would say thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please do let me know. With that being said, have a good day.